Dearest listeners, book babes and book bros, welcome to Book Babble. I'm your host, Tanya, and today we have the lovely J.E. Storm here. J.E., would you like to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Hi, I'm J.E. Storm. I am a Canadian dark romantic fantasy author, and I released my debut back in September, The Spark That Ignites, and I have book 2, The Ember That Tethers, coming out in July 17th.
It was only September that came out.
It was, yeah.
Wow. I feel like, sorry, I'm blown away. So, my friend Morgan, who is typically my co-host, but she couldn't make it today, she introduced me to your book just a couple of months ago, and I I never would have guessed that it was a debut, and I also never would have guessed that it was put out as a short a time. I can't think of the word I'm looking for here. Like just as recently as that, just because of how good it is. So I like obviously I'm stuttering through this because I'm just in shock. So if you all have not read her book yet, you all need to. I cannot rave about it enough. And if Morgan were on here, she would do it as well. So anyway, J.E., are you ready to babble?
I'm ready.
Okay, I'm going to put 5 minutes on the clock and then we're just going to rapid fire through these questions. So, clock is on. I always like to start with how did you get started as an indie author? What prompted you to actually publish your book?
So I was working on, I've always wanted to write a novel, and I just decided I was going to sit down and do it. So I started working on my debut, The Spark That Ignites, and I went through, I want to say, 12 drafts of it. And I just kept rewriting it, and the story just kept getting deeper and deeper. And it was originally supposed to be a standalone, and then now it's a 5-book series. So I decided that I wanted to indie publish as well because I very much wanted to stay true to my story and my characters. And I know sometimes when you traditionally publish, your story can get changed and like they can change your title and that sort of thing. And I very much wanted to keep the story my own with my own words. So
I, I have not been able to stop being shocked since you got on here. Um, 12 drafts. What?
it
So
was a process.
can you walk me through that process? How did you get from draft one to now a 5-book series? How long does it take you to plot a novel as intricate and deep as the ones that you have right now? And like, how do you decide where to cut up each novel? That's a bunch of questions at once, but they're just flying through my mind right now.
So for me, actually, I know a lot of people are going to hate this, but I'm very much a pantser. So when I write, I have an idea and I have like the 3-act story structure kind of like mapped out in my mind. And then I just kind of sit down and write it. So the process for writing my first book was I didn't know how to write a book. So it was a lot of research. It was a lot of like trial and error, I would say. And I think a lot of authors go through that too. Like the first book you write is not going to be good. I think that's just the reality of it. So the first draft that I did for The Spark That Ignites was completely different. Like I had a different FMC. There's only one character who has stayed the same throughout the whole thing.
What?
And that's actually Vesper. So he's been the same throughout the whole series. But for the first draft, it completely changed. And it got better and better every time.
You're just dropping bombs left and right on here. One character has stayed the same. What? Oh my gosh. Okay, so how did you get there? Like you came up with one idea and then you ended up in another place. Is it hard to let go of those characters you originally created and get to where you are now? Like what's going on with those characters that were originally in the story?
So I had a couple characters that I changed them. Like they have different names. They have different backstories. But they kind of serve the same purpose in the story. And then I changed there's several villains in the series too. Um, those have all changed, and my original FMC, um, I still have her in the series, but she's a different kind of character now. She's just a bit of a different personality, and like I changed her appearance and that sort of thing too. But I very much wanted to keep like her heart in the story.
My goodness. Okay, so I could ask you all of these like so many questions about this, but I'm sure the people want to hear some other things. So my next question is one that I like to ask because my friend Hannah loves it. Were any of the characters in your story inspired by a real life person, a real life event, like anything like that?
I think as authors, we sort of pick up on mannerisms of people around us and people's humor and that sort of thing. So I do have a couple characters that have certain traits from, yeah, like people in my life, people that I've met, but I wouldn't say that anybody is based on anybody that I know. They're very much their own people, and they feel like their own people to me too. I always say like they kind of feel like friends, although a lot of them are not very happy with me right now. But they very much feel like real people to me, so it's not like I'm taking a person that I know and kind of like injecting them into a story.
Well, okay, so first of all, you made it through the 5 minute AMA round, so congratulations. Second of all, I still have a slew of questions, so we're not stopping yet. I'm just gonna keep going. So, what does your writing process look like? You mentioned being a pantser, but you also said your draft. You have done 12 drafts, at least just of book one, and it has evolved just tremendously. So, like, how do you decide when you're done editing these drafts and when that is the final story? Like, how did you make that decision?
I think for me, that's the hardest choice because I can set my own deadlines. So I could literally edit these books forever.
Yeah.
And even looking at my first book too, I'm like, oh, I could have done this or I could have changed this, but I'm very much proud of my first book. I'm
As
very
you
proud
should
of my
be.
second book. Thank you. And I think that's one of the hardest things as an author is to kind of write the story, let it breathe, and then put it out in the world and just kind of like let go. Right?
Yes, I agree with that 100%. Like, I've recently started writing my own, and like thinking about putting it out in the world is terrifying. I'm just like, there are so many different things that I can change. Like, is this actually going to be something that people want to read? So I totally understand where you're coming from on that. Just like it's a new perspective that I've recently discovered. So like I get it now. So another thing I wanted to ask you is about writing fantasy. That is something that is it's just intense and it's crazy to think about because you have to create an entirely new world. There are new magic systems, there are new technologies, or old, depending on, what era you're writing in. And like, how long does it take to develop that aspect of a book series?
It takes quite a while, I'm not going to lie. And it takes a lot of asking questions. So you come up with one idea and then you have to look at all the different angles of it. So if you make one law, let's say, in your magic system, you have to look at how that's going to affect different groups of people, how that's going to affect like economics and politics and just everything that goes into it. So you can't make choices lightly, and it takes a lot of Googling random things too. And, yeah, and so I don't have like because it is fantasy. I don't have like a specific time period, but it is more like medieval fantasy that the Shattered Soul series is written in. So I did have to do a lot of Googling and look up certain things and when was this invented and when was this invented and is this going to work in the story or is it going to pull people out of it? So there was a lot of trial and error with that.
Incredible. And like, it's almost like you have to I just said almost twice in one sentence. It's almost like you have to try to prove yourself wrong too when you're creating these worlds, because you're like, what would make this untrue and how can I make sure that doesn't come into my story, that doesn't show up in my story as well. So like, not only do you have to research the actual, thing that you're putting into your book, but then you have to figure out like all the things that contradict it and make sure they're not in there either. And it's just like, that is such a daunting process. And for the fantasy authors out there, like, you guys deserve a round of applause for doing that, because, like, how many plot holes could come up from that? Like, and they typically don't. So, like, bravo to you.
Thank you. I was going to say, one of the things that I do when I write, and I think a lot of authors do this, is when I do the world building, I shape it around the characters. So essentially everything that's in the story matters. So when certain things come up, usually it's through a character's memory or something that matters to them, or like their sister or something like that, so that the world building isn't kind of like dumped on the page willy-nilly. It's introduced in a way that matters.
And I love that, because there are some books that really do just thrust you into the world, and it's so much world building at the beginning, and it's hard to get into. The ones where they kind of like sprinkle the world building throughout, it's a lot more easily digestible, and it's easier to remember too. So I love the way that you do it.
Oh, thank you.
So my next question for you is, what is on the horizon? You mentioned a 5-book series, you mentioned book 2, but is there anything else that you can give us a little sneak peek on?
Might be working on a secret project that it's very hush hush, but there's something in the works. I'm aiming for sometime early 2027, so we'll see.
And this is completely different than the world that you've already created. Ooh. Any teasers yet? Have you put any out yet?
I haven't put any out yet, no.
I was about to go stalk your Instagram and see if I could figure it out. Okay, so we are getting towards the end of our episode, and right around this time, I like to give the floor to you, so you can make any special announcements, you can talk to your readership, whatever you want to do, the floor is yours.
Okay. If you like morally gray characters that do unhinged things, and you're screaming at your book at like 3 a.m., and you love heaps of trauma in all sorts of different flavors, then you'll love The Spark That Ignites.
So yeah, basically every single reader I know is going to enjoy The Spark That Ignites, and you need to pick it up right now. So J.E., thank you so much for coming on today. I had such a great time. I would love to have you on again soon. I know my bestie, my co-host Morgan, she really wanted to be here, but she couldn't make it. So I promised that I would put you on the spot and see if you would come back on with us. So if you would like to join us again when she is available, just let me know and I can get something set up.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds great.
I know that she's also been in your DMs recently on Instagram. Hers is Morgan Reads 24/7. So if you recognize that, that's who I'm talking about.
I was actually just messaging her last night, I think.
Yeah.
I was asking if she started book 2.
Yep, she sent me a screenshot, and I was like, I'm sorry, I haven't seen, any response on my invite yet. I know I sent it out kind of late. She was like, I can't make it, I'm so sorry. And I was like, I know that you're, like, devastated because of J.E.'s Storm being on there. And she said, yeah, I was just talking about ARC reading for her. So I think she's going to be very excited to know that you'll be coming back on.
Oh, definitely. Oh, and I also wanted to mention that pre-orders are live on Amazon for the ebook for book 2, The Ember That Tethers. And I have fun pre-order incentives if you want to check out my Instagram.
Are you doing it through any bookstores as well?
No, unfortunately, no. It's just the ebook.
That's not unfortunate. Just the fact that you have a pre-order is fortunate enough for your readers. All right. Well, again, J.E., thank you so much for coming on today. I will reach out and we'll get episode 2 scheduled with you. And yeah, I appreciate you coming on, and have a great day.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me.